Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. I appreciate your time, and I know what these long hearings are like, so I will be brief. My name is Marianne Jordan. I'm the president of the Boise City Council. I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify on the importance of amending the Idaho Human Rights Act, and I stand before you tonight in support of House Bill 2. This bill is a matter of safety for all Idahoans. 3 years ago, I was approached by a group of citizens who had experienced significant discrimination. They had been attacked and beaten by people who targeted them for their sexual orientation and gender identity, and they feared reporting these crimes. And my thought to myself was, are we doing something wrong as a city? Are we doing something wrong as a police department? In fact, we were not. The victims of these crimes thought that if they had to ask for time off to pursue a criminal prosecution, that they might be outed and lose their jobs. I was then also approached by the police officers who had been contacted and weren't able to receive reports, and they needed help as well. They saw people beaten who could not pursue their perpetrators because, again, they were afraid to file these reports. No citizen in Idaho should be afraid to call for help when they need it because they fear the loss of their job or their housing. Boise and 9 other cities across Idaho have passed non-discrimination ordinances, and contrary to some of the testimony that you heard this morning, these ordinances, most of them were passed long before any of us ever could have envisioned marriage equality in the state of Idaho. One had nothing to do with another. They were a matter of safety and fairness for all of our citizens. We've only had a few complaints in the city, not none, a few, and because of the way that we structured our system, people are allowed to make a complaint and there can be an investigation done and some resolutions found prior to formal complaints being filed and things going public. So this encourages cooperative discussion and a lot of times a resolution to the problem without anyone having something on a record that might follow them forward. Crime numbers in Boise have been declining for the past 8 years. And in the 2 years since we've adopted our ordinance, calls to police from the LGBT community have increased. This is not because there's more crime, but because members of this community now feel safe in calling and reporting and asking for help. And it's important because a community that doesn't report crime is a community that enables crime. Criminals know this, and it makes it unsafe for all of us. When we held our hearings, we had so many compelling stories from upstanding members of our community who wanted nothing more than to live the same authentic life that many of us take for granted. And I was humbled by the courage of so many who were willing to come forward at the time with no protections yet in place and take the risks that they took to tell their stories. And I think that we've heard some of those today, and if you continue, you will hear more of those stories tomorrow. Many people are still fearful to come and tell their stories because the communities in which they live do not yet provide these protections, which illustrates all the more the importance of these protections being implemented on a statewide basis. And I'll finish with this. One of the biggest supporters that the city of Boise had when we were working on our non-discrimination ordinance was the business community. And just this Saturday, in a press release, the Boise Metro Chamber of Commerce, who represents over 1,800 businesses in the Treasure Valley, announced their support of House Bill 2 with the statement from their president and CEO, Bill Connor, that, quote, discrimination is bad for business. It's time to declare that all Idahoans deserve to be safe and to deserve equal consideration. And I ask that you send House Bill 2 to the floor with a due pass recommendation. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Are there questions? Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Wintrow.
I know it's hard to see me, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So in your testimony, you said that there was a process by which people would go through to file a complaint. Could you clarify that a little bit more? Because I keep hearing the fears about lawsuits coming out of our ears. But it sounds like there's a nice mediation process that's been happening and even discretion involved with that. Could you just go through that a little bit more?
Ms. Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Wintrow, yes, we set up a system that will first take a complaint in, and the complaint will be investigated and then sent to the city attorney for analysis as to whether it's a viable complaint or not. At that point in time, the complainant and the person against whom the complaint is lodged are invited in to discuss the problem, to see if a solution can be found, and we offer mediation in order to try to reach some kind of a solution. Up until that point in time, these discussions remain completely private because there is no formal criminal complaint filed, so it is not a public record. And this way, because oftentimes there can be misunderstandings, and sometimes just sitting down with a third party and having the conversation can resolve whatever the issue is, it keeps the complaint from following either party around after it's all settled and over with. We have not, fortunately, had any complaints that have resulted in a filing, so we feel very fortunate about that. But we also have had a few situations where we've been contacted by people who have perceived an act of discrimination and have not been able to serve them because the actual act happened in a surrounding community and not in the boundaries of Boise.
Follow-up.
Representative Wintrow.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Councilwoman Jordan. Is this a similar process to the one that we'll find in the Commission for Human Rights?
Yes, I believe that to be the case. And I would also add that in the actual bill and in state statute, this does not mandate any church or religious organization or employers with fewer than 5 employees.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With no further questions, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative.
Thank you, Mr.
Bat.
Chairman. That's okay. I just wanted a point of clarification. You had said that a number of complaints have been filed, but then did you go on to say that there have been no convictions with any of those complaints?
No, and there have been no, when I say filed, I probably, that was probably a poor choice of words. What I should have said is we have taken in several complaints. There has not been a formal criminal filing on any of them. The ones that we've received have been resolved prior to any public complaint necessitating a filing.
May I have a follow-up?
Representative Bat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Councilwoman, I was just wondering, can you give me a number of how many complaints you have received?
It was 2 in the past year. And we kind of equate this to any other law that we have on the books, which tries to avoid behaviors, any criminal behaviors. You want those to be low. You don't want to have a lot of assaults. You don't want to have a lot of murders. You don't want to have a lot of complaints. You want people to comport and treat each other properly.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Further questions? Thank you.